see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There,
oh, no!
Some contact. Oh, no. Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Cabanga on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Cabanga done it? Barry going to the inside, and Cabanga gets it.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 4 of the season, coming to you today from Cadwell Park. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me, working the comms and the cans, is Daniel Zippy Salmon. This season, is now 3 races old, and we've had a pretty exciting start to this season, and some fantastic luck with the weather as well. Here today, however, in the UK, that luck seems like it may run out come time for the race. Rain is in the air today, Zippy, and with that comes a lot of nervousness for these drivers.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Cadwell Park is a very, very tight circuit, more designed for the motorcycles really in the area. And I got to say, as I know Tamara definitely knows this one for sure, definitely getting a little bit of the feels there that somebody actually remembered that this is my home track, ladies and gentlemen. Very excited to see us here, and it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. You know, this is a track that's actually just outside Louth in Lincolnshire, UK. Lincolnshire famous for absolutely nothing except maybe a cathedral in Lincoln. I believe it may have been used in Harry Potter in a few places, and also as well you've got pork pies, which most people on this stream are not going to understand, and that's okay. And then you've also got a Lincolnshire sausage rolls, which I obviously very, very dearly miss. But focusing more on the racing run, I think this is going to be an absolute belter, but I do think very heavily that survival is going to be a crucial part of this race.
Oh, absolutely. And considering the weather forecast that we have to look forward to from our perspective in the commentary booth, well, the drivers are certainly not going to be looking forward to it. Got about a 100% chance of rain come time for the start of the race in the sim. That is going to be an absolute riot for these drivers at a track which is one of the newest added into the iRacing platform. And while we're still in this qualifying session, coming to the dying stages of it, they'll be riding on board with our very own SMB colleague, that being Josh Wilkie, coming out of the final corner now, down the start-finish straightaway, that very small pit lane that these drivers will have to make a run down in this race. Heading down into turn number 1, the fast uphill left-hander, narrow thread most of this race course. That's very tricky to try and get an overtake done. However, it's very easy to make a mistake as well. Heading off through 2 and 3 right now. Looks like he's going to run a little bit wide on corner exit. With that, I believe, being Michael McConnell, that was a little bit slow on corner exit. The driver that's right in front of him on the racetrack, also right in front of him in this qualifying session. This is the longest flat-out blast on the racetrack by far, heading down into turn number 4, which is going to be a good overtaking opportunity, but these drivers have to have some stones to try and get it done. Heading through 5, trying to build up the speed, heading around this corner, some bumps to deal with as well. Now heading off through the quick uphill and downhill section of 6 and 7, mega downhill now down into turn number 8, a good overtaking opportunity as well, heavy braking zone as well. Heading down into 9 through the quick meandering right of turn number 9, now all through 10 before we go back into the pit lane section. This is turn number 11 and 12, and now we're going to be hitting one of the most famous sections of this racetrack, the jump. These drivers won't be getting air, however, they are certainly going to be feeling light. Now down through 13, 14, off into 15, 16, and 17. This section is quick, feels like an autocross track going through a slalom. Then you head off through turn number 17, a good overtaking opportunity as well towards the end of this lap. Going back down the hill into turn number 18 to round out the lap around Cadwell Park. It is a fantastic ride in the world of motorsports. At 2.18 miles long, though, it's also one of the shortest tracks that we'll be visiting this season, but also a very hectic racetrack for sure. With this qualifying session now being drawn to a close, gotta say the S1 driver of Julian Ditchburn is at the front, in front of James Berry, who's now slotted into second, in front of Antonio Reese off the back of a win in the Masters category 1 week ago at Lime Rock Park. I'm curious, Daniel, if we could possibly take a look at the championship point standings after 3 races so far this season, because it has been a pretty wild season to follow thus far. Sadly, I was not part of the broadcast 1 week ago at Lime Rock. Recovering from a cold can do that to you, but here are the point standings, offensively close, really. 3 points in it between James Berry and Jason Green for the championship lead in Spec 1. Got Yanchi Lin in 3rd, Kevin Adrian, the Mexican driver, in 4th, and Ian Joyner rounding out your top 5. Berry already has a few wins this season. Jason Green always fast, and Yanchi Lin and James Berry did some fantastic battling a couple of weeks ago at Barber for the 2nd race of the season. Gonna move on to Spec 2 now. It's been a pretty interesting class to follow. Our SMB colleague Josh Wilkie has been pretty dominant, though. 234 points on the board. Canada represents for Josh Wilkie at the front in that 223 Wilkie racing car. He's in front of Andrew Love in 2nd, Bill Walker in 3rd, Carlos Navarro in 4th, and Russell Telker rounding out your top 5 in the Spec 2 category. Then we're going to moving off to Masters, and really these Masters categories, the Masters drivers are incredibly interesting to follow throughout the season. Gotta say, Jörg Mani, the Swiss man, who's had some pretty bad luck over the past few seasons here in the Weekend Warriors world, has had some pretty good luck though thus far this season. Has a pretty big lead over Jim Brewster in P2, Brad Cathcart, Antonio Reese, and Stevie Ray rounding out the top 5 in the Masters category for the championship point standings. And now this qualifying session has come to a close. Zippy, looking pretty good for Julian Ditchburn.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see a Canadian driver on top, and then a Brit as well taking up the front row. So as soon as the grid info comes through, ladies and gentlemen, I will very happily put it up there. At the minute, it's certainly not playing the game. It looks like qualifying is just about finishing. We'll keep an eye on that. But Ron, what are you going to be like your people to keep an eye on here in this race?
Ooh, that is a very good question, putting me on the spot a little bit. I gotta say, it's a little bit of a cop-out, but Julian Ditchburn, our pole sitter, is definitely going to be a man that we need to keep our eyes on. Yes, so we've got the rain. The rain is here at Cadwell Park, but I'm still going to maintain that Julian Ditchburn is a very fast driver. Of course, grab the pole, of course, in dry conditions. So, gotta be starting this race in the wet from the pole. James Berry going to join him on the front row. Antonio Reese in 3rd, Daniel Tufts in P4, Jason Green in 5th, Michael McConnell in P6, Josh Wilkie, the top starting Spec 2 driver, gonna be starting this race in P7. Next to Jorge Gonzaga in the 183 car. Kevin Adrian gonna be starting this race in 9th. Next to James McRitchie, who won 1 week ago at Lime Rock Park. Brad Cathcart going to be starting this race in P11. The Australian driver of Peter Maddox going to be starting this race in P12. Going to look through the rest of the 19 starters, my apologies. Looking through, we got Jim Brewster, Adam Thompson from SMB going to be starting this race in 13th and 14th respectively. Peter True and Jeff Jacobson starting on the row right behind, and then rounding out your grid is going to be Paul Jackson, Graham Hunt, and John Toms, a Canadian, making up the 19 cars that we have starting this race. And now, going back to the question you asked me before, Zippy, I gotta say, Julian Ditchburn is definitely a driver that I am keeping my eyes on. Back a couple of seasons ago, for Season 2 of 2024, when I had a privilege to be a part of those broadcasts for that season, Julian Ditchburn was incredibly dominant in the Spec 2 category and even took some overall victories as well as a Spec 2 driver, which is incredibly impressive here in the Weekend Warriors world. And the time that he did it was a race heavily affected by rain, and harkening my mind back to one season ago, the opening race of that season at Alton Park, he making his debut in Spec 1 after winning the Spec 2 championship in Season 2. He made the leap up to Spec 1, and he won the opening race of the season as a Spec 1 driver. That was at Alton Park, another UK track owned by the same company. I believe Jonathan Palmer of Formula 1 fame owns this track, so whenever you see that small little square logo thing, that is his consortium that owns a lot of these racetracks. But Julian Ditchburn is super fast in this series, so that's probably going to be the driver that I keep my eyes on at this challenging race, heavily affected by rain.
Well, I do think rain is going to be the great equalizer, but I know exactly what you mean with them tracks. I'm trying to remember exactly what the company was, but I know Cadwell Park, Donington, Snetterton, and indeed Brands Hatch are all owned by the same company, and I've had the pleasure of visiting 3 out of 4 of those. So definitely pretty cool. I can't remember, Brands Hatch was the first time I actually had like a proper adventure. I'd say as an adult, but let's be real, I was a teenager. Like, I had my driver's license, and my car had nothing. Like, it didn't have a stereo when we got it, power windows, nope. Didn't even have power steering, ladies and gentlemen. And my dad, in his self, he did not let me his GPS, so I ended up trying to navigate from Lincolnshire down to Brands Hatch with nothing but a set of printed directions, which obviously you can't read on the move. And miraculously, ladies and gentlemen, I made it there and back. What a day.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty fun road trip, and I hit the books a little bit in the world of motorsports and saw that Motorsports Vision that owns a lot of those racetracks. So, I mean, it's a pretty good portfolio of racetracks, it must be said. All of them with their own unique set of challenges, Cadwell being no different. But this track, I mean, it's usually treacherous as is, and we saw that with the Spec Racer Fords a couple of weeks ago. But here with the Formula Fords, got a 40-minute race to look forward to, heavily affected by rain. As much as I was confident about Julian Ditchburn, I think this race is going to be about as hard to predict as trying to find a living T-Rex. It's just going to be oh so hard.
It's definitely pick a number, you know, draw one out of the hat. The biggest one I'm keeping an eye on, I'd like to see Adam Thompson, like, not that we're biased, but I would like to see him have a clean race. Like, I don't really care which position he comes at this point. I just want him to have a clean race. Definitely has not had the best of luck in recent events. I think he's struck out 4 in a row. It's a bit like me asking out ladies on that one, Ron. You know, you just strike out constantly. But, you know, you have to show up and, you know, you have to knock on the doors if you want to make a sale. That's just the name of the game. But it looks like they're just heading around one of the closing sections of the track. Now, we did see the SRFs a few weeks ago start taking air here. I'm going to be interested to see if the Formula 1600s also follow suit. Definitely can get a little bit twitchy in that back section. But Ron, get ready to take it away, so we're going to go green.
I am bracing myself for what is going to be a very interesting day of racing action here from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. The green flags down, the drivers are on their way. Looks like Ditchburn and Barry going to have a pretty even keel start. Meanwhile, some drivers shuffling a little bit farther in the back. This is a corner that I have my eyes on. Turn number 1 as an off-track moment. I believe that was Kevin Adrian with a big sideways snap heading down into turn number 1. That's such a tricky corner in the dry, let alone in the wet. These drivers, they are it's so treacherous around this racetrack. Feels like they're walking on eggshells, but some drivers already going for some pretty good moves. That's Antonio Reese, the Masters driver, slipping his way up into second. He won at Lime Rock 1 week ago, so looking to try and do the same here at Cadwell Park, trying to hold on to that P2 spot overall in the P1 in the Masters category. But looking at the rest of the field negotiating their way down into turn number 4, looks like most of the field is crawling their way around this section. I can't necessarily blame them for exercising an extreme amount of caution at the very beginning of of this race, despite the fact that iRacing reworked the grass physics a couple of seasons ago here on the platform, especially in the wet. If you hit that, it's just going to be a slick track, and I think a driver that just hit that was Antonio Reese, as he's now slipping down the running order with a spin from James McRitchie coming out of turn number 7. Drivers going all around the racetrack. Reese went off the track, I believe, heading down into turn number 6, as he's now rejoined right behind McRitchie. So some drivers are already being bit by the bullet here at Cadwell Park.
Well, there's definitely lots going on as I'm going to go and catch up. It looks like there's a bit of action. Somebody else has just fallen down through the order a little bit. James McRitchie went off track again. Daniel Tufts. I'm getting a few different notifications here for sure, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, Jason Green, he's currently sat in the 3rd position. I believe he's up 1 grid spot. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ron. Ron, that is definitely a mouthful, a bit of a tongue twister. First thing, I say first thing in the morning, but let's be real, it's not first thing in the morning. I'm just a little bit slow. It's okay. But Jason Green right now onto the backside of James Barron. You can see there Wilkie and McConnell right behind. Looks like Wilkie is right under threat from McConnell. McConnell's going down alongside as they go down and start finish straight. McConnell by a nose, but it's going to put Wilkie on the inside as they head down into turn 1.
Oh, here we go, and a big moment for McConnell heading down into turn number 1. Mega sideways. The fact he kept that car out of the barrier at the moment is an absolute miracle, and he still held on to the spot when everything is said and done. So well done to Michael McConnell to hold on to a top 5 running position with that big sideways snap heading down into turn number 1. Usually in the draw, you are on the limit of grip there, so that is incredibly difficult in wet conditions. We've had a whole lot of drama go on thus far. You gotta take a look at some replays. This may be an incident involving Brad Cathcart in the 905 car, the Australian driver in the Masters category, going side by side with McRitchie. So he was slow for sure. And you can see McRitchie go off the track right in front of him. And there's a spin for Brad Cathcart. He had a little bit of help from the car right behind. Not exactly sure who that was behind him at the point of contact being made heading around turn number 11. But I saw McRitchie go off the circuit heading down into turn number 11.
Reese again.
A big spin for Antonio Reese. Again. He's lost the lead in the Masters category, so the driver that I was saying was running a pretty good race in the early stages, running in P2 overall at the top of the Masters category, has had a torrid time of things thus far as he now careens his way down to P13 as an off-track moment. Oh no, Adam.
Yeah, you've just seen what I've seen.
Tell me.
Sorry, Adam. We're going to have a look because we're cheering for you. Even though you've got a picture that's maybe 10 years old. Let's see what happened to our friend here, Adam Thompson. That's Kevin Adrian right in front of him, and he's just, locked up under braking. And, that's a nose cone. Left the chat. On the upside, it was a self-inflicted, it's like he's just had a little bit too much. Looks like Kevin Adrian has also met a little bit of a miserly demise. Let's take a quick look at this one, Ron.
Oh boy, Kevin Adrian in that number 10 car. He's had a pretty wild race thus far, and let's see what happened to him. You can see him heading through the final few corners of the lap down into turn number 17. Runs a little bit wide there, hit the curb, and he was so desperate to try and keep it on the racetrack that he virtually came to a stop coming around turn number 17. Looks like he's clean coming out of 18. That may have possibly been the moment that we were taking a look at. It's a little bit further up the road, the side-by-side battling involving Wilkie and McConnell. I believe that was the off-track encounter that McConnell had not terribly long ago. But Adrian having that moment, heading through turn number 17. There may have been another one heading through the first few corners of this lap. You can see those cars skidding around the racetrack, desperately trying to find grip where there absolutely isn't any. As that's an off-track moment, I think, from Jeff Jacobson. He's now running down in 12th, dropping down the running order a little bit. He is. I'm not sure what's going on there, as a fight between Kevin Adrian and Daniel Tufts is still heating up. Those two nearly came to blows heading downhill into turn number 8.
I honestly thought they were going to bump draft. It looks like Tufts has got a little bit of a pace advantage there. Adrian definitely going to be holding back. And I did have the pleasure of racing Kevin Adrian the other day. Actually, who's that in front just took the scenic route across the grass there? Let's try and figure out who that is there, Ron, because somebody in a bright green car has just been mowing the lawn for us. I'm hoping it wasn't Wilkie.
I'm not sure if it was Wilkie. I think, though, Julian Ditchburn has lost the lead of the race. A whole lot of drama's going down in the past few moments. That may have possibly been, I'm trying to figure out who that may have been. Oh, yeah, here's Barry in the number 100 car, I believe, with that off-track encounter that Julian Ditchburn had. He very briefly took the lead of the race. There's a spin from Ditchburn, and that was an off-track encounter for Wilkie. Yes, it was, heading down into turn number 11. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. And really, it's not even a rhyme or reason for a moment like that. That corner is just oh so difficult in these soaking wet conditions. You can see the field skidding around. It's like a bunch of declawed cats trying to climb up igloos. It's absolutely insane the lack of grip that these drivers are dealing with, as we're basically sideways around every single corner around this racetrack at this point in time.
Well, it definitely, for me, I personally love driving in the rain. I've got no pace in the dry. That is a very risky move there from Daniel Tufts. Absolutely sent it up the inside of Kevin Adrian. I got to be honest, I think Kevin Adrian kind of looked at that and thought, you know what, if you want it that badly, as that's Ditchburn taking it off the track again, is he going to rejoin in the traffic? No, thankfully not. The guy's able to sneak by. I thought that was going to end very, very badly there. The weather definitely having an effect here on the handling of these cars, definitely testing the drivers to the absolute limit and beyond. As you can see there, the rain, a little bit of a lock up there from Tufts, and that's pushed him wide. That's going to open the door. Is Adrian going to be able to get a run as they head down up to the left-hander? Tufts still having a little bit of a wiggle as Adrian sneaks by.
I think Jacobson has had another moment. He's had to tow back to pit lane, but look at that driver struggling for grip. Heading down into turn number 1, I think Julian Ditchburn damn near went off the track yet again. As another moment for McRitchie, he's now left the session, so he's out of the race entirely. So far, we've had, looking at the running order, we've had a couple of retirements thus far. Gotta say, Hunt and Toms did not take the start. Maddox didn't either. However, he is still being scored, albeit did not take the start of the race. And McRitchie as well looks to be another retiree. Antonio Reese may have just also had a moment. He's had to tow back to pit lane. So the driver who started this race up towards the front was running in the lead of the Masters category in P2 overall. He has had a torrid time of things thus far in this race. Lots of these drivers have around these challenging conditions that the drivers are having to face at Cadwell Park. And Jacobson going off the track, heading down into turn number 1. There we can see the hill. I guarantee if Jason Green was running in this race, he would hit that jump and try and give us an absolute show towards the end of this Formula Ford Weekend Warriors race. But Jacobson, you can see him struggling for grip. Heading down, he lost it going down the straightaway, hit that wall, and that definitely ended up KOing his rear suspension. Wow. But Jacobson having a major off-track excursion that is going to careen his way down the running order. I think there may have been another moment for him because he did not tow as a result of that. But I gotta say, this race has been one of attrition for sure. Yeah, we got a fight for the lead between, oh, this is interesting, between Barry and McConnell.
Attaboy, come on, furball racing.
Anyways, that was absolutely terrible. Hacking up a furball or hairball. What would that be? I guess it would be a hairball. If I
wondered what that sound was, right?
Boy. Yeah, that was very disturbing. I apologize to anyone tuning into this broadcast today on SMB that may have been disturbed by the noise that just came out of my mouth. But the noise coming out of the mouth at this point of James Berry is a little bit of panic because he is feeling a whole lot of pressure from McConnell. McConnell's got the bit in his teeth trying to find any sort of way to get past Barry. You can see those two cars line astern heading their way through 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 towards the end of this lap. That section really, it is non-stop turning, especially for these drivers. You can see from the perspective that we have riding on board with a cockpit shot of Michael McConnell's car. These drivers are sawing at the wheel basically every single point around this racetrack, even down the straights.
Well, this is definitely where low risk, high reward comes into play. You see James Barry there having a hard time getting the car slowed down. McConnell seeing that happen to Barry does exactly the same thing. Oh, a little bit of a tank slapper there, but McConnell manages to hold on. The furball is indeed soaring at the wheel as you described it there, Ron. Whoa, damn.
Anyways, oh boy, yeah.
Look at the standing water.
My thoughts exactly. That was, oh boy, these drivers are oh so close to losing control of their race cars every single time. It is unbelievable the amount of challenges these drivers have on their hands at this point. That's Jacobson off the track. I heard a motor puttering on the outskirts of turn number 4, and that was Jacobson who's gone off the track yet again. And I believe he's not just towed back, but he has completely left the session. Actually, no, he's still in the session, albeit just towed back to pit lane. Looking at these drivers pulling at the wheel. Kevin Adrian here riding on board with now, and Wilkie right in front. This is a fantastic show of driving skill from all of these drivers just to be able to keep it going on the racetrack and keep it going in a straight line. Gotta say, Josh Wilkie currently leading in the Spec 2 category and holding on to that final overall podium spot. That would be a fantastic result for him if he can hold on to it. This race has been so hectic thus far. We've had a pretty high attrition rate with only 10 cars at this point, only 11 I should say, out there on the racetrack at this point in time, and many of them running into some struggles. We've got 11 cars out there on the racetrack, and we're only 11 minutes into this 40-minute race. And as Christian Cabanga, who I should note is making this broadcast possible with his generous contribution, he noted that this race would have been red flagged if it was being held in real life. Harkening my mind back a couple of seasons ago to the race with this series at Sebring, where the drivers called the track Lake Sebring for a very good reason, because there was standing water all over the place. And I think around this track we can call it Cadwell Park or Cadwell Pool. Look at that from Wilkie, mega sideways, heading into turn number 1. Well done from Josh to keep that car going on the racetrack.
I gotta say, these guys, any points earned today, there's without a doubt it's been earned, and you can see the standing water all over the track. And I gotta say, you know, a lot of people do not like the rain. Myself, I find it is a great equalizer, and I think these guys are doing absolutely fantastic to keep it going. As I see there, Daniel Tufts, he's just crashed. Let's take a quick peek and see what happened there. Well, that already looks a little bit broken. Is he just...
Oh, yeah, he's already... Yeah, that front right tire is already all kinds of out of whack for Daniel Tufts. There you can see it. Yeah, that wheel is pretty much entirely broken off heading down into turn number 17. So yeah, that must have been an off-track excursion a little bit earlier on in the lap, which wouldn't be the most out of left field thing considering the amount of off-tracks we've seen, especially heading down into the 11 and 12 section where Tufts may have lost it.
Well, this is a quick replay because he did manage to get past Julian Ditchburn, and oh, I wonder if this is it. There you go.
There we
Just
go.
Enough. He's going to need an alignment. Probably, I'd call him a control arm, but when you get to like an open racer car, I'm not quite sure if they still call them that. But basically, you see the metal rods that go between the knuckle and the fuselage? That bit.
Either way, though, that car is ready for the scrap heap. The front suspension, at least, is ready for the scrap heap for sure. And right as I said, turn number 11 and 12, that's the exact section that called him out around this racetrack. But looking at the fight continuing involving Michael McConnell and James Berry, this is just absolute madness between these two. It's a mad race and a mad scramble up and down the running order. But McConnell, you can see him all kinds of sideways, nearly going off the racetrack, hanging down into turn number 1. Way too flirtatious with the grass there. That was an unbelievably close call involving McConnell. But I gotta say, with these drivers battling, it's a show of force between these two. Not just the fact they're battling for the lead, but the fact they've been able to keep it on the racetrack thus far in a race which has had so many people drop out of it.
Well, absolutely. Again, low risk, high reward. So, you know, it's a hard one to do. You know, definitely a lot of the drivers, especially when the rain came to iRacing, you know, a lot of drivers, they practiced when it came out and then not so much. They're kind of like, cool, I tried that. Thank you very much. And I'm kind of done with it at that point. I know myself as well. I found initially the rain, it was a little overwhelming because everything got rain. And sometimes, no, I just wanted to drive in the dry. Like, I almost wish that with the endurance races that they did have some splits where it was static weather and it was just sun. So that way, you know, you've already got the challenge of trying to survive. But, you know, what do you do? It's a tough call. You know, I just see Jorg Manny saying they better look at the GT3 cars that they have rain tires. At least you're able to drive the car. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. No rain tires yet for the Formula 1600. But as I say that, I'm keeping an eye on Josh Wilkie because I say that he was 2 seconds behind. I think he's got that gap down to about 1.2 now, if I'm not mistaken there. Yeah, second look, he's catching up to the front battle.
Yeah, he is trying to wheel that race car around this racetrack, and if he goes a little bit over the edge, it's going to end in absolute disaster for him, but he is dancing that car around this racetrack absolutely majestically, but Wilkie slowly reeling in the two in front, who I gotta say have spread out a little bit going down the start-finish straightaway, now about 0.8 of a second between the two of them. Really hard to keep track of the gaps, it must be said, because they can fluctuate in the span of just a couple of seconds. Riding on board with Josh, this race has just been so hard to try and keep tabs on. We've got drivers swapping positions in pit lane, and Jason Green and Paul Jackson are having a battle in the pits at this point in time. You can see them swapping with 0 feet between the two of them. Of course, we've got I think like 8 or 9 pit stalls around this racetrack. A very small pit lane for sure, and the paddock building is just basically somebody's house. So that's part of the reason why we're seeing those two battle. So that's a monumental fight going on. They've swapped the lead about 15 times in the span of the last 30 seconds as McConnell and Wilkie both going off the track. That was a major source of drama heading down into 6 and 7. And look at that sideways snap from Wilkie trying to rejoin.
Well, I gotta say that was pretty impressive. I mean, we saw some brilliant style points earlier watching the SCCA runoffs at Road America. We saw one of the V's do a full 360 and catch it. But you know what? That for this race for me, that was definitely one absolutely fantastic catch. But you know, it kind of worked out there for Wilkie, not so much for McConnell, because you know they both went off. And is Wilkie going to go for it? He is right up on the chuff of the back of the Furball racing machine.
Oh, this is going to be a fight, and this is going to be music to the ears of James Berry, because this is going to take the pressure off of him a little bit. He'll be able to keep that car going in a straight line and not have to push it too much. But Wilkie and McConnell looking to fight in terms of their best laps of the race. All those drivers pretty evenly matched. Gotta say, the best lap of the race thus far is held by Julian Ditchburn, but Josh Wilkie not too far off. It's only, what, 0.02 of a second in terms of their best laps of the race. So Wilkie definitely feeling good about his chances, but the big thing at this point in time, coming up to the halfway mark, is just keeping that car on the racetrack to finish first. First, you have to finish. I've seen that in a fortune cookie before, but these drivers really trying to take that saying to heart.
Well, 100%, you know, it really is a challenging condition. But I got to say, I'm going to very quickly put it back on this shot. So, I don't think you knew this, Ron, but my iRacing team was Top Gun Racing. As I say that, he's certainly flying some evasive maneuvers there. All right, we're going to try this again. Josh. Maybe not.
No, okay, well... Another drift for Wilkie. This is the commentator's jinx hitting, I think, because I was saying that he was very fast and feeling confident in his chances, but he's lost about 6 seconds thus far this lap. The other pressure of being on the cameras maybe affecting Josh just a teeny tiny bit. I say that knowing fully well that he will read me the riot act if I keep up any more phraseology like that. Another lockup heading down. Yeah, let's switch our attention away from that and look at this fight continuing between Berry and McConnell. Berry incredibly deep, heading down into turn number 11 and 12. That's a great thing about wet weather racing, because we get to see the way these drivers try and manage their race and manage their racing lines as well. I mean, most of the people tuning into the stream are familiar with this. However, I will wax lyrical about this. You don't want to run on the racing line in conditions like this, because the rubber on the track is just going to turn it into an ice track. But McConnell nearly losing and coming at turn number 17. All these drivers pushing it, some of them pushing it a little bit over the limit though.
Definitely, Ron. I mean, it's fair to say that this is a challenge that we have not seen yet here for the weekend warriors. We've seen it get a little bit wet, but I don't think anybody was quite expecting this. You know, it really is, as I see Paul Jackson and Jason Green still flickering between in the pits. Wilkie, it tells me he's entered the pit lane just then. I do wonder. There you go. He's coming out of the pits, and that's going to be right behind Julian Ditchburn. So this could be good. This could be bad. Not seeing a little bit of a dry line yet. As you see Ditchburn having a little bit of a wobble there. Definitely, you're going to have to very much dial that car back. These guys driving on the limit, trying to find that grip. And as Michelle Lynn has very wisely said, it really is a battle of survival. And I do believe some of the drivers are wondering how many are going to be left at the end. Currently, as it stands, I believe there is 8 cars currently on track with 19 that started.
Yeah, this race has seen an incredibly high amount of attrition. I feel like it's going to continue in the second half. Gotta note that I don't believe Josh stopped in his pit stall. I think he just reached the incident point limit and had to serve a drive-through penalty because he spent 10.87 seconds down pit lane and nothing at all in the pit box itself. So I think that may have been a drive-through penalty for him. Gotta take a look at a replay of this drama that Wilkie has had to deal with thus far. It has been a terrible few laps for Josh, and there you can see that's Julian Ditchburn going off the circuit. That was heading through, I guess that was heading through 2 and 3. Actually, no, that was heading down into to 6. My apologies, 6 and 7. It was through 5 that he lost it, but nevertheless, those drivers, both Canadians, starting to battle a little bit hard for the final podium spot. Those 2 cars, I think, are still covered by barely any air at this point in time, as we got to take a look at another replay of an incident involving Adrian.
Yeah, Kevin Adrian, definitely a very seasoned driver. He does participate in the Motor Racing Academy as well. That's where I had the pleasure of being pleasantly surprised to see him in there. But I don't think Swellio's yet started doing courses on rain. But it's fair to say for this race, you're definitely going to want to get in that extra experiences. I do have a warning that he crashed, but I've not yet seen where it happened here. Everything seems to be looking all right. Adrian, perhaps, triggering some warnings here, unless it's going to be here going into turn 1. We've already seen a couple of drivers caught out very, very screwily under braking. We're going to find out very shortly. No, not quite sure why it was flagging a crash. Our apologies, ladies and gentlemen, but a little bit more screen time there for Kevin Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian's usually a pretty fast driver in this series. However, it's been a pretty tough show for him today. Looking at the battles, though, gotta say, with the high attrition rate that we've seen thus far, the field spread out quite a lot.
Oh!
About 7/10. Oh, boy, a big moment for Wilkie heading down the hill. That is a huge sideways snap for him and a mega moment for Josh. Looks like he's going to keep it going, but that was a big source of drama heading down into the braking zone into, I believe, turn number 4 it was, but still, Wilkie losing it. That had to have been a steady clip of about 100 miles an hour when he went sideways.
Well, at this point, technically speaking, like, if I'm reading the timing screen right, correct me if I'm wrong here, he's got like a 38-second gap between him and Jorge Gonzaga. Honestly, at this point, I would just dial the throttle right back and just make it round. He's currently leading S2. Peter True is in the pits. He literally just needs to finish at this point. And if he keeps pushing, like, he's still P4, that's still a good haul of points. As you see there, the back end squirreling again. Guido Marzucchi, he's telling me, Marzucchi, Ron, which one is it? Because I keep getting damn confused with Guido's last. Marzucchi. I think it's Marzucchi.
Marzucchi.
Yes, Guido Marzucchi. Thank you, Guido. You can tease me about this later. Telling us that he's already at drive-through level. So realistically, I'm being told as well, it's 18 incident points for disqualification. He really does need to just basically get this car around the track. He's leading S2 championship right now. He's going to be P1 for S2 again. Just get the car around, Josh. Get it round.
Yeah, that's probably a good call for him to try and do, because he has been, oh boy, I was going to say something very mean. He's hit everything but the hot dog cart. But, I mean, if it was me out there on the racetrack in these conditions, I would be hitting everything as well. I've done some driving in the wet. I've driven a go-kart around a wet racetrack with slick tires and have it be known that I had no grip at all. It's like a Siamese cat with rabies trying to get out a bathtub full of coconut oil. That was the worst choice of phrase to ever use on a broadcast.
It was colorful, Ron. I'll give you that. I'm rubbing off on you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to swiftly move on from that, though, and keep our attention on the racing action, because the gap between Barry and McConnell is still maintaining about the same. Those two very close heading down into turn number 11 and 12. That's a big thing. Usually this racetrack is pretty hard to overtake at, but with the varying conditions, these drivers have a pretty good chance, and side-by-side heading down into 13 and 14, and McConnell's going to get the move done in convincing fashion over James Barry in P2. Right as I was going to say that usually around a track like this, very hard to try and find an overtaking opportunity, but in these wet conditions with all these drivers struggling for grip like it's going out of style, they can overtake just about anywhere that they want, and McConnell proving that with a move heading off into turn number 13 and 14 coming out of the 11 and 12 chicane, a move that you would never see, and Wilkie, I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, may have hit that incident point limit. Oh no.
Let's take a quick look. It says he came back on track. If it gives him a disqualification, then it would automatically move him there to the pitch. You can see there, he's definitely gone a little bit wide. Oh, there.
Yep.
Yeah.
He got yoinked.
Damn it.
And in iRacing, it also has him marked with a disqualification flag next to him. So our buddy Josh, it shows you that even in conditions like this, you always have to think about those incident point limits. As Ditchburn coming down pit lane, did Ditchburn actually make the decision to stop in his box, or did he have to serve a drive-through penalty? No, he's stopping in his pit stall. There we go, merging into Jim Brewster's race car.
Tells me he crashed.
Looks like possibly picking up a fast repair, possibly. No, he bailed. He just towed back. I believe we are actually to live action because everything that I'm seeing is corresponding with my live timing screen. So this is in the present right now, folks. So Ditchburn stopping and going, and then immediately towing back to the. I mean, we were expecting this race to be a little bit hard to keep track of, but like I'm gonna need to take some Excedrin after this.
I don't know what that is, but what I am going to do is I'm going to find that pass, that great pass that we've seen on McConnell making on James Barry. Let's have another quick look at that there, Ron.
I got to take a look at this beautiful move that McConnell put on there. Side by side, come around turn number 12, going over the crest. And look at that, McConnell being able to get that move done. Gotta say, if we could take a look at another angle of that, I'm sure Barry backed out of it, understandably so. Because single file around this racetrack with the conditions that these drivers find right now, that is a fate worse than death, but going side by side at any point of this racetrack, which is oh so narrow with little to no runoff area to speak of, that's a good call from James Barry to back out of it. He, as much as he wants to score another victory, he's worried about the points as well, because he is in contention for that Spec 1 championship. So I think he's seeing, hey, at this point, I can afford to give a little bit just so I can have a small little cushion to fall back on towards the end of this season. But Barry backing out of it as McConnell gets that move done. I think Barry's had a moment because he's now 19 seconds back of McConnell. Did he have an off-track moment? No, he's come down pit lane, of course, in this series, even with these wildly changing conditions and the fact that the drivers run the same tires in the dry and wet in these Formula Ford race cars. They still need to come into the pits at some point. There's been some confusion about that in the past in this series, but Barry had to come into pit lane, as do the rest of the drivers in this race. So Barry making that decision to come into the pits.
Well, I can't say that I blame him there, but as I have a look at the grid right now, Ditchburn is not currently on the move. He's in the pits. Daniel Tufts, though I believe the 5th place car is the last one surviving, as it looked like Jorge Gonzaga, he is just entered the pits. Let's try and get a better view for you. There you go. You can kind of see him in there. Definitely a different set of cameras than that. There you go. He is on the move and he is on the way out. And I got to say, I do love with his paint how it has his name literally right on in front of him. As who's just snuck by there? Let's have a quick peek. See who's nearby him on the track. That is Brad Cathcart. And Cathcart, I believe they are, yeah, they're fighting for position there, Ron. 2-second gap as it stands right now. Actually,
yeah, that
Daniel
may be a good fight. Gotta say, Cathcart. Oh, yeah, Daniel Tufts involved in that. Gotta say, Tufts has come down pit lane thus far, so that is a heads-up fight between those two. Cathcart, a little bit farther up the road, has yet to come down into the pits. But looking at this side-by-side, heading up the hill into turn number 4, this is risky from Daniel Tufts. Is he going to make the move stick on the Portuguese driver of Jorge Gonzaga? Looks like he is going to. However, gotta carry a whole lot of speed off into turn number 4. Very lucky to keep that car going on the racetrack without any further incident. And it should be known the driver that I outlined as well, the drivers to keep our eyes out for, that being Julian Ditchburn. He's left the session, so Julian Ditchburn not going to be rejoining this Formula Ford Weekend Warriors race at Cadwell Park. Heavily affected, I say heavily affected, rain-soaked. That is the only way that we could describe it. These track conditions continue to be tough. It is still raining, folks, so that track is consistently getting wetter and wetter with every passing moment. The track temperatures as well,
Tufts
pretty cold in the world of racing, and Tufts with a big moment hang down into the 11 and 12 chicane, and that's going to take him out of it.
Yeah, that looked like a DQ. Let's have a quick look at the replay here. We're going to go on board for him, actually, and oh yeah, nothing he can do. Long for the ride. Jorge choosing very wisely to bail right out of that. Let's have another quick look. Sorry, Mr. Tufts, but in the nature of, you know, when things start getting a little bit on the quieter side, let's see. Oh, yep. Round and round he goes. An all-time high for disqualifications here at Weekend Warriors today. Have a quick look.
I believe you are correct. I'm looking at a replay of Peter True in the 388 car. This is heading into about the same section of 11 and into the 10, 11, and 12 section. The 11 and 12 chicane has been the trouble spot for all of these drivers, and Peter True being another one called out by that, and a light tap into the outside wall.
Well, I gotta be honest, I thought him and Jörg Manny had been sharing a paint for a second there, because I thought, oh, round 2. I thought that you see the little red on his nose cone. I thought that was like just the lips of Jorg Manny's car. But sadly not. Jorg Manny, I didn't actually see Jorg Manny in here today. Jorg, why weren't you in here? I see you're in the chat. Come on, Jorg.
Oh, I mean, can you blame Jorg for skipping out on this? These drivers do have a few drop rounds at their disposal. If I saw the weather report, because credit where credit's due to Stevie Ray, the series admin, he usually tries to keep the weather forecast as close to reality and as close to real life as possible. So this is what's going on in that area of the UK at this point in time. It is rain central over there today. But Brad Cathcart, who we're following, one of the drivers not to get bitten by the incident point bullet. But going back to the subject and talking about Jorg, I can't blame him at all for wanting to skip out on this chaos because, I mean, for these drivers, I don't think there's been any point for any of them in which they've been able to go fully to 100% throttle just because this track, it's an ice skating rink. It's not really a racetrack. It's an ice skating rink for all the drivers on the Formula Fords.
Oh, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm used to this kind of weather, especially this being like my home track. I'm a little disappointed in some ways it's been so wet. Don't get me wrong. It's made it a very colorful race. Literally, I'm seeing 4 cars left surviving. So it really has become, it's almost like Wreckfest at this point, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'm actually a server admin on the most messed up Wreckfest server for good reason. I mean, anything goes there. It's not just wrecking people. It's also, you know, if you want to poke fun and have fun, you know, you can, and it's okay, you know, just keep it somewhat clean. And you guys know me very well, so I do see as well James Barry going off track, and Kevin Adrian, I'm getting a warning for a crash as well. Seeing a few crash warnings, not necessarily been 100%. We're going to take a quick look, see if Kevin Adrian has indeed met a gruesome end. We'll take a quick peek here, Ron.
Oh, you can see a big sideways snap at the very beginning of the replay, but Kevin Adrian in that number 10 car. Oh, it's another snap heading through, and it looks like he's going to keep it on the racetrack. So well done from Kevin Adrian. The fact he can keep that car going well. So I'm not sure what section of the racetrack that was at, but either way, big moment for him. But at this point in time, most of the field has retired from this race, and I believe, Zippy, we've got one of those drivers joining us in the commentary booth now.
Yeah, so we've managed to get hold of Jason Green. Now, he did have a little bit of an early retirement here, but you can see Jason on the racing line Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern. You'll find himself, Stevie Ray, and I do believe Joshua Wilkie is going to be filling in for about a month in the absence of Adam Thompson as well. And then I think I may know who the special guest is next, but it is not my place to say. But Jason, the coach extraordinaire, tell us a little bit of feedback about Cadwell Park today.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I did some practice in the rain, but not this much. And I was not expecting to be that difficult. I kind of knew where the grippy parts of the track are, but yeah, it was way more slick than I thought. Props to everybody who's still alive. I thought we lost Kevin there really quick, but he's managed to come out of the pits, so I think he was just making a stop. So yeah, the 6 people that are still left are doing a fantastic job. I think Brad was on 3 inks only.
Damn.
That's what he said. And Michael as well. So if they could finish with that, that would be incredible.
Well, definitely, you know, certainly keeping them incident points. Oh, there you go. Is this the one? Yeah, okay, that's the one we saw. I had a warning that he'd had another little mishap. So not to harp on you there, Kevin, but I got to say, Jason, I mean, it's a mixed bag. Don't get me wrong. I mean, very exciting racing, but certainly a unique set of challenges here for the Weekend Warriors. I mean, we saw the SRFs come here to Cadwell Park. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well? The comparison between the F1600 here, the SRF, and also the weather being involved as well.
Yeah, I mean, the in the dry, the Formula Ford is amazing to drive around this track because the SRF, you're kind of just fighting understeer the entire time, whereas this car, you can really chuck it around the corners and really push it to the limit. So yeah, in the dry, the FF 1600 is amazing around here. The SRF, yeah, again, it's just kind of you're just kind of fighting understeer and trying to keep it on the track. So it's a little more defensive driving in the SRF.
Well, it's definitely one of my favorite cars, one of my favorite combos for sure. But ladies and gentlemen, that was Jason Green. I do express my sympathies for you for you know, striking out a little bit, but certainly, you know, I think it's, what's it, 3 drop weeks you have? Actually, maybe even 4 for this season. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
I think we have 3. I have 3, so yeah, that'll definitely count as one. It's a little disappointing because this is the first race I haven't finished in a very long time. I didn't get DQ'd. I got 15 inks, but my last crash, I'd already used my fast repair and they couldn't repair it. So I know that happened to at least one other person as well. So so disappointing, but there's a drop week, and Kevin's a couple of spins that we saw replays of, I did the same exact thing like 3 times. So very easily done in these conditions.
Oh, very, very easily done indeed. We see a little bit of a wiggle there from James Barry. But ladies and gentlemen, that was Jason Green. Thank you very much for popping in, Jason.
Yep, good to talk to y'all.
Thank you very much. I believe we've got Adam Thompson hanging out as well there, Ron. You want to have a quick chat with Adam there, Ron?
Yeah, we'll bring Adam into the commentary booth. Adam, I don't really know what to say.
Neither do I, Ron. It was something. You know, that week 13 race we did. I believe it was around Road America. Didn't hold a candle to what we just dealt with out there at Cadwell, and I'm gonna email iRacing to see if I can get my money back for this track. Sorry, Daniel.
I can't necessarily blame you. I was actually joking with Daniel before the broadcast went live with the audio checks that we were doing, and I kind of joked about this track being one that I was going to regret purchasing. But still, this track, it's a wild ride for sure, and definitely a lot more wild with the wild weather that this race has been affected with, cursed with. What word would you probably use to describe it?
I mean, I would honestly, Ron, I would say that this track in the dry is a very, very fun track to lap. You're not going to be able to make much passing, but you know, the elevation changes and everything were great. Now in the wet, it turned into a different beast, and I would say it actually got a little bit more tame because nobody could get over 100 miles an hour. So there was an issue with that, and there was no dry line either or not a dry line, but there was no sticky line on this track because the slick line was even slicker, and then off the slick line you couldn't get off the slick line because the track's too skinny, so it just turned into a freaking driveway pretty much. But it was fun, and I figured I'd hop in here and try to cover a little bit of time until you guys get some interviews. But how many people ended up finishing that race?
Well, it's still running.
We've still got, we're still running this race at the moment with less than 2 minutes on the clock. We've got 6 cars out there. James Barry, who's been able to take the lead of the race from Michael McConnell, who I think had a very torrid time as of late, and has lost about 16 seconds to the back of Barry after pulling off a great move hang into the 13 and 14 section probably about 10 minutes ago. But it's Barry, McConnell, Gonzaga, Cathcart, Peter True, and Kevin Adrian rounding out the 6 cars that we still have left out there at the on the racetrack at this point in time of the 16 that grabbed the green.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun race, and Ron, you're going to be part of the podcast on Tuesday, so there's going to be plenty to talk about.
There certainly will, for sure. I feel like the yarns that I can spin about my own racing career may be on the back burner for the yarns that we can spin about this absolute. Boy, I don't even know the way I could describe it. I can use a semi-curse word and call it a fuster clock. How this race has been thus far.
Fair play.
It's just been it has been insane to follow. I think James Barry gonna be starting the final lap in just a couple of moments time. But Adam, are we going to see you in the SRF race later on today?
You will, actually. I'm gonna try to get a little bit of practice. I thought I didn't think I liked Cadwell, and I'm driving Zolder. I don't think I like that one either. But I'm going to get a little bit more practice on that, Ron. I'm going to leave you guys to it and fuster cluck my way out of here.
Alrighty, sounds good. I have created a monster here today on SMP. But
don't worry about that. He was
thanks for joining
that
us. And oh boy, that was Always gotta have some colorful chats during this race, especially a race which has just been so bizarre and hard to keep track of. Gotta say, not sure what happened to Michael McConnell for him to lose so much time and lose the lead of this race, but James Berry leading 18.5 seconds in front of Michael McConnell, who's the only other car at this point in time to be on the same lap as the leader, James Berry, who I gotta say is the only driver to break below the 1 minute 50. So James Berry in that 100 car, he's absolutely been on rails thus far. You can see Brad Cathcart running in fourth, and Peter True running in fifth. Those two on track for the win in the Masters and Spec 2 category, respectively. But at the front of this field, running effectively all by himself, James Berry, the driver that started this race in P2, exercising some patience. I'm not sure how his incident points are going to look out when everything is said and done here. I don't think we've seen him go off track at all throughout this, and this is an expertly executed drive from James Berry. Oh, I may have... Yeah, he's going to try and play me like a damn fiddle towards the end of this race and make the instant commentator's jinx happen. So I'm not going to mention incident points again. However, I am going to mention that Berry is going to be coming to the checkered flag in a couple of moments' time, and James Berry is going to be victorious here at Cadwell Park when everything is said and done. A 40-minute race full of chaos, full of absolute oddities and many bizarre things going on. James Berry, the Brit, wins it when everything is said and done. We have a little bit of time before Michael McConnell crosses the start-finish line to finish in P2. Gotta say, well done for Michael McConnell, despite the fact that it isn't the victory. It's still a pretty good show from him in the number 62 car, and he crosses the line to finish in second. And Jorge Gonzaga, one lap down from our leader, Berry. Gonzaga and Berry, you can usually see them ripping some radical SR10s in iRacing. They end up finishing P1 and P3 at a rain-soaked Cadwell Park. Brad Cathcart, meanwhile, going to be victorious in the Masters category, and Peter True about to cross a line in the not-too-distant future. A little bit farther back, I believe he's one lap down to Cathcart right in front of him. So Peter True, indicative of a very odd race here, but Peter True going to be running his way around the final few corners. The Spec 2 driver up 10 positions from where he started in this race. That is a fantastic performance for him, and he's going to round his way around the final corner and go on to the start-finish straightaway to snag the victory here at Cadwell Park in the Spec 2 category, rounding out your top 5. You have one more driver waiting to cross the start-finish line, that being this man, Kevin Adrian. 6 cars finishing. I think this is the lowest that I have seen and possibly the highest amount of attrition that I have ever followed in my time broadcasting any Weekend Warriors series, which, bearing in mind, folks, dates all the way back to March of last year. So this is an absolute oddity today here at Cadwell Park.
Well, it definitely was a challenging set of conditions. And this is one of the races I actually would have really enjoyed, because I find myself, if it's the stuff that nobody really wants to drive, or, you know, there's no grip, I'm in my element on that. Don't get me wrong, I don't think I would have survived, but I would have enjoyed trying. But we are going to try and take a quick look at the grid, as I've just realized. Let's get rid of Adam's little interview thing. Let's see if we got some results in here, right?
I think we have a very interesting results tab to take a look at, and there it is. James Berry wins it when everything is said and done. Michael McConnell ends up right behind him, P2. Those are the only two that finished this race on the lead lap. Jorge Gonzaga got right at your podium, one lap behind our winner of Berry. That's going to be Brad Cathcart, the driver of the 905 car from Australia, finishing in P4 overall, top of the Masters drivers. Peter True going to finish behind the top of the Spec 2 drivers in 5th overall. Kevin Adrian going to be the last of the finishers that we have. And now we've got the drivers who either were disqualified or ran into some sort of difficulties. We've got Daniel Tufts, Julian Ditchburn, Josh Wilkie, Paul Jackson, Jason Green, Jim Brewster, Jeff Jacobson, Antonio Reese, Adam Thompson, James McRitchie, Peter Maddox, Graham Hunt, and the final driver classified is going to be the Canadian driver of John Toms in 19th. I don't believe he took the start at all. So some of the drivers towards the end going to be not even classified in this race, I don't believe. But holy cow, what a bizarre day from the Formula 4 to Weekend Warriors. I think the drivers that were just able to make it to the checkered flag are going to be happy with how things worked out. But Daniel, we got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. Would you like to have a chat with our dominant winner of James Berry?
I absolutely would there, Ron. Now, James, I gotta say, that was a very, very challenging race. Now, I see that you're also a fellow Brit. Tell us a little bit about, is this track close to you? Is it one that you're quite familiar with? Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, I bought it 3 hours ago, and I've never driven it in my life before today.
That was honest. Well, tell us a little bit about how you handled this race. Obviously, it definitely had some challenges for you. Tell us a little bit about how you was able to keep the car in check.
Well, it's just, the main thing is patience. I knew at the start of the race that I remembered last season I did my first ever race here, which was at Alton Park, and that was in the wet, and Julian was the masterclass that day. And at the start, I just knew that he might just be pulling away, and I was just telling myself, just don't push yourself, because the main challenge is to do the whole race without spinning. And when you do spin, you risk spinning into the barrier. I did that multiple times in the brief testing that I did in the wet, so I thought I just can't risk anything. Unfortunately for me, everyone else succumbed to the weather at some point, and so I just kind of made my merry way to the end. Had a couple of off tracks, but yeah, I was just telling myself, I just know where to brake in order to be safe, and just keep doing that every lap, and you'll be all right.
Well, it definitely was a challenging set of conditions, and congratulations on not just the outright win, but the S1 win. Before we let you go, James, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
I'll shout out Michael as well for he was pushing me a lot kind of midway through the race, and that was really enjoyable around the pit stops. And then I guess he spun right in front of me after that. He made his pit stop, so shout out to him for the pushing me all the way there. And shout out to George as well, my teammate, who I think is going to come for an interview as well. He's really happy with himself. He's got a first ever podium in the series, so shout out to him.
Nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was James Barry. Thank you very much, and congratulations once again on your race win.
Cheers. See you guys. Bye.
And that right there was James Barry, the driver victorious when everything is said and done here at Cadwell Park. Got another driver waiting in the interview waiting area. James Barry just alluded to him, that being Jorge Gonzaga. Jorge, welcome to the commentary booth here at SMB. Been a little while since we've been able to have a chat on a broadcast, and a very odd race that we just saw here at Cadwell Park. Talk us through it.
It was insane. Obviously, it's obvious that I wasn't expecting finishing third. Everyone was like pushing, trying to risk it. I just decided to, keep it cool, literally Sunday drive. Braking early, using the gearbox instead of brakes. But I haven't driven the track like before the practice starts, so it was really interesting to try to adapt in the dry, and then all of a sudden it started on the rain and it's completely different. So I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna go really, really slow, see where it gets me, and being the turtle pays off, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, when everything is said and done, you end up finishing the race in third here at Cadwell Park, and we've seen you run these races throughout the season. This one we're hoping will probably be the only one like it. Certainly in my time covering this series, it's the only one I've ever seen like this. A high attrition rate around a racetrack newer to the platform with terrible conditions around that racetrack. Can you just talk us through how difficult it was trying to keep a good head on your shoulders and just not get caught up in anyone else's BS around this race?
Yeah, exactly. It was a patience game. Obviously, it's a new track on the service, so not everyone is accustomed to it. And but let's be fair, it's in Britain, so it will be raining, and if there's rain, we should make use of it. So, and I think this just elevates the challenge, right? Because if it would be easy, people get fed up. So it's kind of interesting to have like these curveballs from time to time. But yeah, it's we learned the physics of the rain for a while. Everyone already knows how it works. Is looking for the the dry section of the track, tried to find it. On the beginning, it was really complicated because the track was completely wet. There was literally no dry spots. But then eventually the track started to get dry. So yeah, it was. I really love it. Obviously, if you are a bit more, are eager to try to get that position or that second, yeah, that's just going to be chaos. You can do it on any other track, but on this one with these elevations, because even the elevations, you really like one section it was a complete pool. You couldn't even put on the throttle. You just aquaplan. So I loved it, and not just because I finished P3, but new track, new challenge on the rain, on amazing cars. I think for me it was a recipe for success. For everyone else, I guess.
I mean, it was just so difficult, and just from our perspective in the commentary booth, it was incredibly hard to try and keep track of. But thankfully for you drivers, gonna be heading to some warmer conditions for the next few races. Hungaroring's gonna be next up on the calendar. However, based off a series that I know that you drive in, I don't believe we'll be seeing you for that race, considering there's a little bit of a commitment in the Radical SR10 world that I believe you will have to oblige to first. So we're going to be heading to the Charlotte Roval after that. Skipping out on the race on the Hungaroring. So how do you feel about your chances throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah, I'm doing this for the fun, this championship for the fun. Obviously, James is a bit more committed. I'm just tagging along for like I said, the car is amazing. I think it's one of the best cars in the service. Like, the feedback is so truthful, and it's really fun to drive. And to be fair, on the season itself, I don't have many aspirations. I just want to show up on the Sundays, whenever I can. Do a couple of corners, have nice battles. So I don't know if I manage to finish within the top 5, which I don't think I will, but I would consider that a successful season. But if not, it's a great race. It's a really respectful drivers around. So yeah, if it's just for the fun, it's for the fun.
Alrighty, well, this series is certainly a whole lot of fun, and very glad to see that you were having fun out there despite the incredibly challenging track conditions here at Cadwell Park. And now, Jorge, before we let you go and celebrate that podium result overall, is there anyone you want to thanks to or shout out?
Obviously, my team, insert name, Team E-Racing. I still cannot even pronounce. We might need to change that name. But yeah, to my teammates, to James, he's amazing in any car he jumps in. He just does an amazing job, and he overtook me on P3, so the pace that he had today was insane. So big shout out to him and the rest of the teammates, and shout out to you guys. Amazing job you do every week. Stevie Ray for putting the league together. So yeah, and the community in general.
Alrighty, well, there you go, Jorge. Congratulations on the podium, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Dana. Cheers.
You.
And that right there was Jorge Gonzaga, the driver that rounds out our podium. And now I think we got Michael McConnell waiting in the interview waiting area. So, Daniel, would you like to have a chat with him?
Well, it took us a little bit to get you in here, Michael, but it's good to see you back up on the podium, albeit in the second step today. Tell us a little bit about how Cadwell Park treated you today, sir.
Not as well as I was hoping, but okay. So this track combo with the rain was not something I was hoping on ever doing, because it's extraordinarily difficult in the dries. So once it started raining, I was definitely nervous.
Well, that's definitely understandable, but you know what, despite it being difficult and it's really worked out for you. Certainly a P2 in the S1 class and a P2 overall is definitely something that is very, very challenging to get here at the Weekend Warriors. So it was really a survival of the fittest kind of scenario, in which case, you know what, you did absolutely fantastic. But Michael, I've got to say, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank for today's success?
Probably James Berry. He was up with me. It was pretty much the only one that I was actually racing with, not only that. And we did kind of swap places at some point during the race. So it was kind of fun until I hit those puddles and spun around.
Well,
so yeah, it was good to try and push with.
Well, that's definitely a very, very fair review. Appreciating the other racers around you for some nice, clean racing, and definitely a very challenging set of circumstances. But ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael McConnell. He is your Purple Racing S2 second place finisher. Thank you very much, Michael, and we will hopefully see you again on the podium very soon.
Yeah, thank you too.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Ron, tell us a little bit about your conclusion for this race.
overall insane. I guess I really genuinely do not know how to describe the race that we just saw here at Cadwell Park. Unusual would probably be the best word that I can describe it. But I'm very thankful that we were able to broadcast this, and we gotta thank Cabanga for being very generous to sponsor this series and make it possible to have this broadcast today here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and also maybe possible to get my colleague Daniel some antihistamine spray or something like that. I just heard about 5 sneezes in the span of about 5 seconds. Thankfully, there we go. So after my hairball sounds from earlier on in this broadcast, thankfully they couldn't hear some sneezes as well. Otherwise, there'd be a strange amount of noises going on in this broadcast. But Christian, if you're still tuning into this, thank you very much for making this broadcast possible. And I gotta say, I saw earlier on in the chat that Christian was watching this stream from inside Center City, Philadelphia, which is a fate that I want to do, which is saying something because I've lived in the city of Philadelphia for all the 19 3/4 years I've been on planet Earth. But nevertheless, before we wrap things up here from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, gotta remind you all to tune into the rest of the action that we have here on SMB. Got the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors coming up. Well, we got the Spec Racer Ford coming up this afternoon at Zolder. Got the Formula Fords coming up at Hungaroring in 1 week's time. Also got Formula V action along with the action from the XSLR series running the Limaland Dirt Oval in the NASCAR, well, actually not even NASCAR, we'll just call it the Legends cars. But nevertheless, that will just about do it here from today's broadcast of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors at Cadwell Park, a rain-soaked Cadwell Park, hosting one of the strangest races that I've ever seen. But for myself, Ron Maunz, and Daniel Zippy Salmon, working the comms and the cams on this broadcast, joining me, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not-too-distant future.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and
yes,
the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
yes
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
we are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely.
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh, no. Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Cabanga on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Cabanga done it? Barry going to the inside, and Cabanga gets it.